Welcome to the Immigrant Entrepreneurs Podcast, episode 9. My name is Alina Warwick, and I'm so excited to bring on Mercedes Concepcion-Gray today on my show. She came from the Dominican Republic all by herself after already living here when she was a little girl. She came right after college with a college degree that wasn't highly recognized in the States, but with all her determination and a broken accent, she was able to climb the corporate ladder for many years. She escaped the corporate world in her mid-40s, and today she unravels what it was like to do all that and what businesses she started and manages. So let's get right to it. Alrighty, Mercedes, thank you so much for coming on my podcast where I outline immigrant entrepreneurs' journey. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy life. And how are you doing today?
I am doing great, Alina. Thank you.
Awesome. So let's start from the very beginning. Let's talk about your immigrant journey. Tell us where you're from and when did you come to the States?
Well, I have 2 points of entry into the U.S.
Uh-oh.
I'm originally from Dominican Republic.
Okay.
And my first journey was when I was 8 years old. My parents moved to New York City, and we lived in New York for 4.5 years. And that's really where I learned English. When I first got to New York, I didn't know anything. So it was a story of 8-year-old trying to be immersed into a school and not understanding the language. And then we moved back to Dominican Republic, and I decided to come back to the US after I finished college in Dominican Republic. So I moved back right after college, and here I am.
What was it like growing up in Dominican Republic?
It was great. I come from a small town in Dominican Republic, La Vega. I tell the story that when I was young, there was only one traffic light in the town. And, it's our culture is very, everybody knows everybody, and really grew up where the milk was delivered to our house and
Wow.
was killed that day, and things now people look as this is cool, with the way of eating, but that's the way I grew up. And my parents were not, they were only high school degree, and I think one of the biggest thing that they ingrained in us was the importance of education, and so they determined that their kids were all going to be college graduates, and they were successful at that.
Amazing. And so when you came back after college, did you come by yourself or with your family as well?
I came by myself, but I had family in the US. So when I first came back, I actually lived with my uncle and his family for the first 2 years until I got my roots. But mainly I had an education, 2 suitcases and $200, and a family that took me in and helped me get started.
Wow, amazing. And how old were you after college when you came back?
I was 21.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the struggles that you went through when you first immigrated to the States.
The first time being when I was 8 years old.
Or probably the second time.
Because there were different struggles, Alina. The second time, I was blessed because I had family, so I was able to have a place to live and a shelter, things like that. I think my biggest struggle is, as a professional, my English was still a very elementary English. So the first thing as I started my journey here was really about the language and the nuances of the language, and then finding my way to get a start, to get someone that would give me a job, being from another country. While I had a college degree, it wasn't any college that was known, or I had no network really professionally. So those first 6 months were hard. I missed my family. I thought about going back many times. And the story I tell a little bit because I think it's important to build resilience and to not give up. So when I first started applying to a job, my first job, one of the things they required back then was that I write an essay, and my written English was horrible. And I was in my third interview. They told me to write an essay and they rejected me because the essay was horrible. And, I thought I could do it on my own, so I didn't ask anybody for help. I was a little bit proud then. And at that point, I think it's a very important point in my journey because I could have taken the rejection and walked away. Instead, I actually called him and I said, English is not my first language. I would like for you to give me a chance. I will rewrite the essay. Please give me another opportunity.
Wow.
And they did.
Aww.
So I was blessed in that. I rewrote the journey and I ended up getting hired. My first job was with EDS, Electronic Data Systems. And I always tell that story because a lot of times we give up in the first no or the first rejection. And a big philosophy of mine is if you never ask, then the answer is always going to be no.
Right, right. And where did you learn English? Did you learn any English before you came to the States?
I learned English when I came to the States for the first time when I was 8 years old. That was so I came for the first time. I remember it was January and was the first time I've ever been on a plane. And I was, and growing up, electricity was more of a luxury versus a common consistent. And I remember seeing all in New York City and being in awe as an 8-year-old. So my English came from school in New York in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade.
Awesome. Yeah, I can totally resonate with that because growing up in a Russian family, we didn't speak any English until we were dropped off at school. And it's like, all right, your first day of school, not knowing a single thing of English. So I can totally resonate with that, Mercedes. So let's talk about a little bit about your entrepreneurial family. Did you have parents that were also entrepreneurs? Did they give you any wise advice?
My parents, were in a sense entrepreneur. My mother was the most entrepreneur because she was a fantastic seamstress and she built a business by custom making clothes for all the wealthy people in town. And it is really through those efforts that she was able to put us all through college and school. And the things, my mother didn't even finish high school, just to give you a perspective. And I think the biggest thing that through her actions she demonstrated was that, it's about hard work. It's about delivering on your promise and really doing the best that you can every day. There wasn't really a lot of advice. That was really by watching her and seeing that, she would work long days and long nights and always took pride in doing the best she can do. I think those things were ingrained in me by seeing them. And therefore, as long as I do my best, that's really what counts for me. Not necessarily, it doesn't mean that I always have success. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be successful at what I do, but I will try and I will give it my best. And I think that comes from her modeling the way in what she did and the way she conducted herself and the way she conducted business with others.
That's so powerful. Growing up, you can see all that and you're probably soaking it all in. So before you tell our listeners about how you opened your company, tell me about the path you took. And did you try to go into any other fields before starting your business?
Oh, yes. I yes. So mainly my education is I had an engineering degree. So I did work for corporate America for 20 years before I decided to go into my own business. And, I was mainly in the software industry and was blessed because I got to travel a lot with that and learned a lot. And in a sense, managed business units within large companies. So that was my journey prior to deciding to open my own business and really create a future that only depended on me and not others. It was always a dream of mine. My brother is also an entrepreneur in Dominican Republic, and I have a lot of respect for him because he pretty much built his business, which is very successful in DR, from scratch. So in a way, he inspired me as well to take that leap. It's not easy to walk away from a consistent paycheck and take the risk. So that was my journey. So I did have experience in the corporate world before I decided to open my business.
What made you decide to leave the corporate world? Was it just too stressful, too many hours, or you just wanted to have control of your time and go into the entrepreneurial world?
It's a combination of things. I loved what I did. So, I had passion for what I was doing. So it was not a matter that I was unhappy with it.
Mm-hmm.
I was traveling a lot, and my son, I was constantly on a plane. So I didn't really get to, my husband was the stay-at-home parent. And part of that decision came that I was at a point in my career where I needed to decide, and I always wanted to do this. And it was really the attractiveness to me was independence, freedom of doing what I needed to do in my craft in my own time, and also the dream of building something that could become a legacy for my son.
Amazing. So 20 years into corporate world, you decided to open a business. What was it?
I decided to open a business. So I have two businesses.
Love it.
One of them is a staffing agency that focuses on recruiting top management talent in the hospitality, retail, and food industry. And mainly that, have an office with employees and recruiters, and they source, our clients are going to be anywhere from hotels, restaurants, food manufacturing, food distribution, anything around food, and also with a specialty in technology leadership, which is really where I was. So that's a big part of my background. That the second business is I kept, because of my passion of helping businesses grow and transform and position. I have a consulting firm called Gray Matter. My passion is working with either startups or businesses that are at that point of growth, but they really operationally and technology-wise need to set a sound structure, as well as working with larger clients that are looking to launch either a more entrepreneurish business unit or a new product. So those are the two companies, and together they bring together my passion for people, process, and technology.
Did you open them simultaneously at the same time?
Gray Matter, my consulting, because it was just a natural evolution of my corporate life. I opened first, mainly leveraging all of my experience and really leveraging my network in those areas. And then after that, I opened the recruiting business, which really ended up being, I acquired the rights to a national franchise concept for Georgia and North Florida.
Gotcha. So being in the corporate world doing software and IT, how did you linger into a staffing agency for food-based industry? Because that's kind of different.
A little different. Well, one of the things that I did when I was thinking about, I'm more of a builder, right? I'm a builder. I like to build things. I like to see things grow from the ground up. But when I set my criteria, there were three key things that I put out there. And that was, I wanted a business that I can do from anywhere, because I didn't want to be confined to brick and mortar. I wanted a business where I was helping others, and I wanted a business that allowed me to grow as much as I wanted to without limitations. It just depended on how much effort and investment I wanted to put into it. And I kind of cleared my mind of thinking, again, I'm about building, so that's my passion. So I cleared my mind as to what, and I looked at many different ideas, 20 concepts. And when I came across this model, it was a model that checked my three top boxes. So I was helping people, because whether I'm helping my clients find that top talent that's going to make them successful in their business, I was also helping people that we have a coaching component to our practice. So individuals that were stuck, that were not knowing, how to go about to find a job, or needed coaching to figure out what they want to do with their career. It's a lot of what we do with our candidates. And so people has always been a big passion of mine. Even in corporate America, it's building teams that help people succeed. So that's really, while I wasn't in the staffing industry, I didn't know what it took to find the right people to build strong teams.
Awesome. I love it because I always hear that people can have like a background or expertise in one thing, but when they start their businesses, it's so different. So I love to hear, how did that come about? Where did you start? How did you get it launched? So thank you so much for sharing that. How old were you when you first started Gray Matter LLC?
20 years in corporate America. So I started my business in my mid to late 40s.
Got it. Got it. Awesome. It's never too late. That's why I always say.
It's not.
Awesome.
And I have a philosophy that, what's important in life is we should never stop giving or doing the things that we're passionate for, because there's a number. As long as we're healthy, as long as we have energy, as long as we have drive, as long as we have passion, it's never too late.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so did you raise any capital to start your first business?
The agency, I didn't raise capital as far as capital investors. I leveraged my own capital and also then leveraged an SBA loan.
Gotcha. Awesome. So Mercedes, did you prepare yourself in any way, like taking courses, going to events, or reading books that would prepare you for your first business launch?
A few years before my first business launch, I completed my MBA.
Okay.
And my MBA was very focused not only on, building a business, managing a business and all of that, but it was also focused on the emotional intelligence of building organizations and the importance of people. And again, people comes up a lot in my theme. And so that really prepared me. And the other thing that prepared me was my experience, right? I did manage fairly large business units. So I had the basic understanding of managing a P&L and managing and building teams and managing a business. What I wasn't prepared for, going from talking about journey, going from a corporate where you have all that infrastructure that supports you, was all the things that go on in starting a business, right? All of a sudden, you are everything. You're the marketing, you're the HR, you're the financial CFO, you're those things. And I learned a lot in my first year. I learned that we should never assume that because we've been successful doing something else before, that we're going to be successful in what we're doing, and that it's important to really dig into the industry of whatever business you're going into and understand it. My philosophy is forget everything I knew during the first 6 months to a year and put myself as was starting to sweep the floors again. Because a lot of times when you have preconceived or you have prior experience, you go into something and you think that you incorrectly assume that you know, and you don't allow yourself to learn what you don't know.
So amazing. I love it. Mercedes, did you have any mentors that helped you out in the beginning stages of your business entrepreneurial venture?
Many. I think one of the things that I think it's important as an entrepreneur is to surround yourself by people that are smarter than you always, and to be humble and not be afraid to ask for help. So yes, I was very blessed because first of all, I talked to a lot of people before I took this move, and it was a scary move. And one of the things that one of my mentors told me that just continues to resonate with me, and really this happened throughout my career as well as I took on new challenges, is, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is that you go into this and a year later you figure out it's not something it's not working out, or you don't like it, or it's not something there. You can always go back to what you know. And that really is what pushed me to remove the fear. Also, I told you my brother who built a business, he was a great mentor as well, just to learn from him and the importance of relationships and building a business. And I have a family that my husband, my son, my parents, all just were cheerleaders. And
that's
whenever
amazing.
I was afraid or down, they were like, you can do this, you can do this. So having that support system behind you, friends, it was really, there was no one that ever said, oh, question my move there. And I think that that's powerful for me.
So amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm really interested to know, how do you look at failures and how do you overcome them?
I this is something that actually I was talking to a friend the other day, and I said, we talk about resilience, and we were talking about, the different attitude about learning. And I think because I've always said, I came to this country with barely nothing, and I'm not afraid to go back to barely nothing. So I look at failures as, I just wrote something as, really every time I failed, and I failed a lot, I've made mistakes, but every time I did, I learned. And if it wasn't for those failures, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I look at them as learning opportunities. If you never fail, is because you're not taking any risk, whether you're in corporate and, are taking new challenges by learning something new, or taking a new role, or raising your hand to do something that it's uncomfortable. So I look at them more as learning opportunities. And really, in starting my business, right, I've had to hit the reset button a few times. I made lots of mistakes.
Don't we all? Don't we
Yeah,
all?
I've made lots of mistakes. So, and I could have given up after those mistakes because they were costly. But I basically think about it. I look back at it. I look at what happened. I decide, okay, this is what I'm doing different, which is also very important for me, because continuing to do the same thing does not end in the right results. So my philosophy is that learn, tweak, do it again.
And you've come out so powerful after that.
And that's really the way the cycle is: learn, tweak, do it again. At the beginning, I hired the wrong people for my business because I was new in recruiting and didn't really understand the talent. I managed mainly more developers and things like that. But I tweaked, and now I have an amazing team. So it's learn, tweak, repeat.
Awesome. I love that motto. Okay, so Mercedes, let's chat a little bit about successes. But before you get to answer the question, I just wanted to say one thing. The reason why I ask about successes is to show the immigrants that they can do it too. So with that, I'll leave it up to you to share whatever success you would like with our listeners.
I think my first success as an immigrant was the story I told, right? Having failed at a job interview because of my written English not being good. And my first success was going back and asking for a second chance. That was a powerful success for me, because it set a foundation to remove my fear of, when I fail, asking for help. And also realizing that it does happen that if you ask, the outcome could be different. So that's a big success that, I share with a lot of people, so that way they don't get discouraged when they get rejected, or when something doesn't go the way that they want it to go. With me, success is proving to myself that I can do something and continuing to challenge myself to do different things. Obviously, in my career, I ended up having success because anytime there was a problem to solve, I really was there to try and figure it out. It doesn't mean I always succeeded, but I tried. And to me, that is success, trying. And it's hard. It's hard to remove the fears, the uncertainties, the stigma that sometimes goes with, well, I may not be good enough, or what if I can't? Well, if you don't take the first step and at least try. So to me, a big success is that at least I've tried. And those, the stumbling and the falling down, it happens, but if we look at it from, again, a learning experience, then it's not as scary. So that to me has been something that I'm proud of and a big success. And my most recent success is, again, lots of fear, lots of, concern if I could do it or not, but own business. And I'm very proud of that, because I'm building something that is based on my philosophy. It's helping others. I like to give back to people. And as a business owner, I have that opportunity as well. Doing pro bono work or helping someone that's struggling and mentoring and being able to give back. That's another big thing that I see as success. The rest, titles, money, I always say, I've never defined success as far as going after a specific title or put a dollar amount on things. I've always defined success as I tried, I moved on, I learned, I had fun doing it.
Awesome. You live life without regrets, Mercedes. That's amazing.
One of my dreams that's still on the bucket list is part of my MBA project was the design of a non-for-profit foundation. So I have a passion for children and for education. I believe that especially with immigrants, the more we can provide support, especially for the children of immigrants, because a lot of time, like you said, right? Like my parents never even learned English. So, we're immigrants. They couldn't help me with my homework. They couldn't help me with anything. They had to count on others because they didn't have the language or the skills to do it.
Right.
And that's where when I see immigrant families that have children, and there's a very powerful foundation here in Atlanta called Los Niños Primeros, children first. And that's where my passion lies, is in education. So providing support to organizations like that, maybe one day launching my non-for-profit, which is about matching children with parents, because there's a lot of children out there that don't have a family or support or especially children that are after a certain age. So I've done a lot of things with orphanages, and both from a volunteer and from monetary perspective. That's really where my passion lies. I believe that everything starts, and the more we can help the children of today, the stronger as immigrants we become.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. So, Mercedes, what are some things you would advise the next aspiring immigrant that wants to start their own business listening to you right now?
Well, thing that I would advise is that there's a lot of free resources out there that can be leveraged. And, organizations, I know the, Latin American Association offices like free classes to individuals that want to start their business. They have a big movement to empower Latinas and and I'm sure those organizations exist for other cultures as well. So really looking into organizations that offer support for immigrants that want to start their own business. They're very powerful. They offer a lot of resources, workshops. And that's really a first step. A second step is I always say, select your top 3 things that you're passionate about as far as why you want to start your own business, and make that about something that is something that you believe in, that you are not going to then give up when you hit that first, second, or third failure. And the third is to find those people that are going to be your cheerleaders and help you. That's really important as well. The other thing is that there's many ways to start a business, to be necessarily of you starting from scratch. And before I bought my franchise, I didn't even ever consider franchising, which is one of my businesses, the recruiting agency. But they offer a great platform, especially for a first-time business owner, because they provide a lot of the infrastructure and the support. You still have to do all the things that a business owner does. You still have to develop, your portfolio of clients. You still have to build your teams. You still have to decide how are you going to penetrate the community. So there's so many doors that you can open. And I think just looking at those aspects, once you define where you want to be, are all different options look at to start your own business.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Love it. So we're going to wrap up with these last super, super fast questions. What time do you normally start your day?
I am a night person, so I normally start my day at 8 o'clock.
Nice. How many employees do you have?
I have right now 6 employees.
Awesome. How often do you watch TV in a week?
I watch 1 program a day.
Awesome. How many hours of work do you normally put in?
To me, the biggest benefit of what I created as being a business owner is that I no longer have a line between it's not a 9 to 5 job. So it's I balance all of the aspects of my life. So depending on what's going on, I could put in 60, 80 hours in a week, but it's balanced in a way that I spend my family time, have dinner with my son and my husband, and dedicate time there, and then I can work till midnight.
So all of your work is remote?
Yes.
And it's been remote, or is it due to COVID?
The recruiting agency is pretty much all virtual and remote. So I have employees that come into the office and I have employees that work virtually. My consulting work, it's not always remote. I do have times where I go into the client offices, but for the most part, it's mostly virtual.
Awesome. I love that. Alrighty, Mercedes. Well, that will wrap up our session for today. I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on board. I wish you all the best of luck, and I can't wait to see what your nonprofit is going to look like in the near future. And thank you so much for giving back in so many ways. You're doing an amazing work out there, and I wish you so many more successes your way.
Thank you, Alina, and a pleasure speaking to you, and good luck to you as well. And I look forward to following your podcast.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am so excited that you were able to tune in for another episode. I hope you got some awesome and exciting advice from Mercedes. I know I learned so much from her. But if you're listening to the show and you're an immigrant entrepreneur and would love to be on my podcast, go ahead and email me at hello@alinawarwick.com. And wherever you're listening to, if you're on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, wherever you're at, go ahead and show me some love and rate this podcast. Hey guys, I'm still brand new to this, so I'd appreciate some love. So if you leave a comment on one of the platforms, I will pick and choose one of you guys and give a shout out at the end of one of my next future podcasts. So go ahead and shoot some love my way, and I will see you guys next time for another exciting and impactful episode. Take care, guys.